Hi, it's Steve. Today we'd like to show you how to change the radiant bridge element on your range. It's a really easy repair. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect power to the range. So either pull it far enough forward that you can unplug it, or locate your electrical panel, turn off the appropriate breaker, or remove the appropriate fuses. Once we've done that, we can start the repair. Now that we have the power disconnected to the range, our next step will be to remove the main top so that we can do this repair. It's held in place with 2 1/4-inch hex head screws that come up from the bottom and secure it to the oven body. To remove those, we'll need to open up the upper door and simply take those 2 screws out. Now with the 2 screws removed at the front of that main top, we next need to flex that top enough to lift it off of the 2 hinge points in underneath the console, and then we'll pull it far enough forward that we can remove the harness plugs and the ground screw. So simply lift up slightly on that top, lift up on one side, pull it away. Do the same for the opposite side. And then just carefully pull it ahead about 6 inches, and we can get in behind and remove those harnesses and ground screw. So simply reach in and depress the 2 locking tabs for each of those harness connectors. Once you've unplugged them both, you'll have better access to that ground screw. It's a 1/4-inch hex head screw. Just remove the screw, make sure that the harnesses are clear, and then we're going to lift that main top up out of the way. We'll set it on a suitable work surface, and we can change out that element. Now with the main top removed from the stove, we've set it on a suitable soft surface so that we can change out that element. Now our first step will be to remove all of the individual wires from the terminals on the side of that element assembly. Before we do so, you'll want to take note of the location of all of those wires so that we get them reattached to the proper terminals. Now when removing the individual wires from those terminals, we suggest that you either use a small flat blade screwdriver and gently pry the terminal off, or use a pair of needle nose pliers to pull them off. What we want to try not to do is to wiggle them back and forth, because that tends to stretch the terminal ends and makes them loose. We can leave this jumper wire in place as it is included with the replacement element. Now with all of the wires removed, our next step will be to remove the mounting clips from the element. Just take note of the location of them in respect to the holes that are tapped into the side of that element. Then using a pair of needle nose pliers, we're simply going to flex that spring clip towards the element and up. That will release the little tab in the middle. You can then lift off and discard the old element. We'll take this opportunity to clean up the bottom of the top surface. Now if we've dislodged any of those clips, so we can make sure that we hook those back into place. And now we're ready to place the new element onto the bottom of that main top. So carefully lay it into position. And then we'll reattach those spring clips. Make sure that little hook fits into the corresponding hole. Now with the element secured to the top, we can then begin to reattach the wires to the terminals. We need to make sure that they fit on nice and snug. So if need be, you can simply crimp the ends of those slightly with your needle nose pliers. Make sure they fit on nice and tight. Just ensure that we have all the wires in place. Now we're ready to take that main top assembly and we'll want to set it back onto the range where we can secure it. Just carefully place that top back about 6 inches from the console. We'll begin by locating that ground wire and securing it to the metal bracket. We'll reconnect the wire harnesses. Make sure they're firmly pressed onto the connector, making sure that the locking tabs engage. And once we've done that, we'll need to make sure that these hooks at the top of that backsplash engage the pins in underneath the console. So having a firm grip on both sides of that top, we'll just tilt it up slightly. Make sure those hooks engage the pins in underneath the console. Ensure that both sides are engaged and lower that top down onto the 2 strikes on top of the side panels. And then we're ready to reinstall the 2 screws along the front. We're now ready to push the oven back into place, reconnect the power, and your repair is complete.